Hello girls and boys. Today I'm going to read you a story from Daddy's Bedtime Stories by Mary Graham Bonner, and this one is called The Woodpeckers Start a Bird Band. The woodpecker family were around on various trees drumming on the bark. Mr. Hairy Woodpecker, Mr. Downy Woodpecker and Mr. Red-headed Woodpecker were hard at work. "Let's start a band," suggested Mr. Hairy Woodpecker. "What's that you say?" asked Mr. Red-headed Woodpecker, who had been so busy at work that he had not heard what Mr. Hairy Woodpecker had been suggesting. "A band," repeated Mr. Hairy Woodpecker. "What sort of a band?" asked Mr. Red-headed Woodpecker. "In the first place," continued Mr. Hairy Woodpecker, "our bills are not only fine tools for the work we have to do in getting the insects from the trees and for burrowing in our nests, but they would be splendid to use in beating drums in a band." "Where would we get the drums from?" asked Mr. Red-headed Woodpecker. "The trees, of course, you silly." "Oh, yes," agreed Mr. Red-headed Woodpecker. And Mr. Downy Woodpecker said, of course, the trees will be our drums." "We'll get the other birds," said Mr. Hairy Woodpecker, "to help us. We'll need something in the band beside the drums. We will ask the goldfinches, the mockingbirds, the bobolinks, and the phoebe and the chickadee families, all of the warblers and the vireo families, and the robins, of course. Then I think we'll ask the orioles and the whippoorwills and the thrush family, and the songs of the sparrow." "Oh," said Mr. Downy Woodpecker, "that will make the perfect band. We'd better get started right away." And the woodpeckers began to practice. They made such a noise that the birds came from far and near to see what they were doing. Mr. Sapsucker, Mr. Cress Woodpecker and Mr. Flicker Woodpecker all joined in beating the drums too. "Why are you making so much noise?" asked the birds as they flew around the nearby trees to talk to the woodpecker. "Oh," said Mr. Hairy Woodpecker, "we were just going to ask you all to join our band. We will beat the drums." "And just what do you want us to do?" asked Mr. Robin Redbreast, who is always eager to help. "You all must sing." "But we all sing so differently," chirped the song sparrow. "We know different tunes and different songs." "Oh," said Mr. Hairy Woodpecker, "I never thought about that. But never mind. You can have little parts to sing alone, and other choruses where you will all sing together. I'm sure it will be a very fine band after we have practiced." And they began pounding the drums again. "Well," said Mr. Robin Redbreast, "if the bird band isn't to be the finest in the land, at least we'll make a cheerful noise." Well, that is the end of that story, so I shall see you again soon.